God?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We're rolling.
All right, so we're back from break again. This is part two of the meeting. We finished up with the Nike Hill. We're moving on to the Shoreline Board assignment of duties. And Bruce, would you like to kick off
Yes,
again?
I will certainly do that. This basically code amendment would assign the Shoreline Board Master Program amendment process to the Planning Commission. Right now, we have a Shoreline Board that does legislative items and makes a recommendation to the City Council on matters concerning the Shoreline Master Program, which is basically regulations that affect the Sammamish River and North Creek and lands within 200 feet of those two water bodies.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
So we received a couple of comments by email, both in favor of keeping the Shoreline Board separate. And I have to agree in terms of having people that are a little more of an expert, I guess, in those particular issues. It seems like in the past we've had some people that were a little more knowledgeable. Nothing against the Planning Commission, but in terms of the water and shorelines use. So I would be actually against moving this one forward. Do we have stuff this year that requires a shoreline board?
Yeah, we have a couple of, kind of technical-oriented code amendments that probably need to be done through the Shoreline Board process. Essentially what they are, they're talking about some floodplain regulations and a little bit of regulations as far as wetlands goes.
Is it scheduled yet for a certain time of year that it needs to happen?
It is not scheduled right now.
So there's time to put out a request for applicants and appoint.
Well, there would be, yes, if we could find some folks to go up to the Shoreline Board, yes.
Okay. Well, that would be my preference. Thank you.
So Deputy Mayor, so it's clear. So you want this to be then removed from the list?
Do not consider.
Not
right?
deferred 2018, not 2017, just gone?
Right.
Okay. Anybody else have an opinion on this? Just from my perspective, from being on the Planning Commission, when they did the bigger shoreline master plan update, I can't remember why, but I remember thinking that would have been just a lot of work for the Planning Commission to do that, what you guys normally do. I think it aligned where there was a comp plan update, major comp plan update, with the shoreline master program update, and I was very thankful that there was a shoreline board to handle that part of it. But from the staff perspective, it's more work to have two boards. So, any other input? Councilmember Freed?
Are you saying you would stay with the recommendation of staff as it is right now, have it go to the Planning Commission? Or am I misunderstand?
No, I'm saying I don't want to move forward with making, assigning the duties to the Planning Commission. I'd rather appoint a new board.
Have a new board? Oh, okay. For me, I'm happy having the Planning Commission do it. We used to have a Shorelines Board, and they met once or twice, probably once a year, if that. Establishing a new board for something didn't seem like a good idea, so I think 2-3 years ago, I can't remember the timeline, we decided not to have a Shorelines Board anymore. What I like about having the Planning Commission do the work for the shoreline is there is more of a holistic approach. There's a lot of different backgrounds for 7 different planning commissioners to be able to look at a shoreline issue in regards to a holistic approach for the city, rather than just somebody who comes from the idea of just focusing on shoreline issues, but something that would be more broad. So I like assigning this, as it says here, to the Planning Commission.
Councilmember Sandberg?
I support not moving forward with this item, and I do support having a separate shoreline hearings board.
Councilmember Agnew?
Although I have all the faith in the Planning Commission, I think a shoreline board is in order. I think shoreline master plan is coming up in the next 4 years. They're going to start working on it, something like that, isn't it?
If I may.
Yeah, please do.
Essentially what it is that the Shoreline Management Act, state law, requires that we update the plan every 7 years. Now, I want to draw a really distinct difference between what happened in 2012 and 2013 against what will happen in 2019, 2020. And that is basically, in 2012 and 2013, we did a full, complete rewrite of our entire shoreline master program to be consistent with new provisions that were issued by Ecology. They have guidelines that they provided within their Washington Administrative Code, and that was a really intense effort. 2019, that won't be the case. It'll be a fairly simple, straightforward process to just to update it. It really won't be near the kind of effort we did previously. So, I mean, certainly we could get another shoreline board, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that we're not going through that type of effort every time we do an update to the master program.
Okay, Councilmember McNeil.
I would be in support of having an independent shoreline board. I think it's important that we take the opportunity, especially with the things that we have with the Sammamish River and the work that we want to be doing in the near future along the Sammamish River, to have somebody that's looking at shoreline-specific items, and that would be a great board to have. So,
Anybody from the Planning Commission? There we go, Mr. Clark.
Just like maybe a clarification, is this, I didn't think we were making a decision as to whether it would get transferred to the Planning Commission tonight, but only whether we're going to put it on the docket to consider that. Is that correct?
Well, yes, as well as, of course, identifying priorities for each of these different planning code amendments. So, yeah, in that, it is on the docket, but we'll do is we can make a change to what the council is looking at for the 21st hearing.
So yeah, we're not making any decisions tonight.
Well, I just want to clarify that. I think that this is probably a bigger issue than we can possibly give to it in 10 minutes during a meeting tonight. I would be okay keeping it where it is and addressing it this year if it fits, but I think just eliminating it I don't feel like we necessarily have all the information we need to decide to do that right now.
Why can I stumble on your name? It's so.
It's the time of day.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This
Ms. Lawrence.
this is not my idea. That this is a community member's idea. So I'm just going to toss it out there and let you guys chew on it. This solves the problem of creating another board, and also hopefully is a body of people that are diverse but also invested, and it's a board that already exists. So this is not my idea, but I thought it was an interesting idea to chew on, is to put this in the Parks Department and let them go through it and chew on it, on shoreline issues, because so many parks sit on shoreline. So I'm just tossing it out there for the consideration.
Okay. Councilmember McNeil.
so I just wanted to clarify. We're saying, I think I'm in support of having an independent board. Whether or not it's on the docket or not, I still feel that we need to move forward with it, but I think an independent board is what I'm saying. I just want to make sure I clarify that.
Right. So I think what's might be a little bit confusing is that if we say get rid of this agenda item, it means we would keep a shoreline board. So it's like
I just want to clarify so
Right.
I'm not.
Double negative.
okay. I've expressed this since the beginning of getting rid of the shoreline board. I think it was important to have. I understand it does cause a little more work to organize and solicit people for another board, but I think it's something I'd like to see this keep. So, all right, I think we're done with that one. Number 13, miscellaneous critical areas amendments.
Yeah, there's a number. My apologies. There's a number of items within the critical area regulations, which includes a few things in the shoreline master program. These are more along the lines of updates of best available science provisions. Nothing of any real significance here from a policy standpoint, but these are just important things. An example is that Department of Ecology has issued new methodologies as how we rate wetlands. We want to adopt that within our code, and so these are the kind of things that we'd want to have the Planning Commission and, of course, maybe the Shoreline Board for that portion that's within the shoreline jurisdiction address.
Okay, and it's slotted for if we can do it in 2017. So just since it's been a couple hours, I just wanted to ask again, are the things that don't have a plus things that we think we can accomplish, and the pluses are if things go faster on those other things, we might be able to get those done?
If we have time, we'll do those
Okay.
items.
Okay. Anybody want to take a swing at item 13?
Excuse me.
Councilmember Freed?
I'm gonna take off. I'm not feeling very well.
Oh, okay.
Can't see out of my right eye. I get sight migraines once in a while, so before I can't make it home, I'm leaving.
Have a
Hope
good
you
night.
guys do well.
Item number 13, is there, I guess, see, we're all tired now. Is there consensus on leaving it where it is?
Yes.
Yep, okay, moving on, number 14. Sign code amendments. Can you give us a briefing on where this is with legal? I thought this was something we had addressed, but apparently not.
Yeah, we have not addressed it to date. And basically what this is this would be one of those things we'd have to do a sign code amendment. Again, it's something that is not of great significance, but it does have a little bit of an issue from the standpoint that we do have a little bit of legal exposure there, but I'll let Tom finish
You
that.
know, reward analysis, I think you can put it off to 2018 easily enough and not take on too much risk. We are not receiving complaints, and you all in the room would know better than I whether there is a free speech concern party in the community that would challenge the city. But if everything seems to be operating sufficiently, it can be deferred.
Do we dare express publicly what it is that needs to be changed about our code? Like, what is the problem with what we have?
It really addresses temporary signage, and you'd think temporary signage would be fairly minuscule and simple, but it can be a little hairy between different types of temporary signage. Essentially, you have to define signage that is commercial sign, community signs, and use broader definitions rather than specific definitions that relate to the copy of the sign. And it kind of can be a little difficult to grind through all of that process.
Okay. So I'm okay with, well, you have it on for 17, is that, so are you guys saying maybe 18 would be more appropriate, or just leave it where it's a 17 plus? You mentioned 18.
I mean, from my perspective, I would kind of look at the residential care facility definition as a higher priority than signs.
Okay.
And maybe exchange those two possibly, and even, address residential care first, signs if we get to it, and then signs would fall into 2018 if we don't.
Okay, so 18 sound good for everybody? Yep, 18 it is for that one. Moving on.
Mayor, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Would you mind if I backed up to 13 and asked the question?
Uh-oh, you're back. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
So we see that as 17 plus, but in my mind, these are things that would be addressed by a shoreline board if we had a shoreline board. So is it fair to scratch 12 off the list and leave this on here for the Planning Commission in potentially September, October?
So I don't want to steal Bruce's thunder, but so the shoreline board, its jurisdiction around like the fish and wildlife conservation areas, it's only 200 feet from the waters of the state, which is North Creek and the Sammamish River.
Okay.
So your guys' jurisdiction is citywide, so there's a lot of other little streams and stuff throughout the city. So it would have to come to the planning commission.
Yeah, it'll be both.
Yeah, it'd be both.
It'll be both parties,
Okay.
or boards, I'm sorry.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I
This
asked the
shoreline
right
board.
person, right?
No, if it's confusing you, I'm sure it's confusing people that are watching. So
Thanks.
Did we decide to scratch item 12? I didn't,
we did.
oh, so it's gone.
It's gone. Shoreline. So that means the shoreline board will exist.
Okay.
It's a double negative. It's really fun at 8:35 at night.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so we're on to number 15, South Riverside Drive.
So like Nike Hill, this is one of the rezones that was that Planning Commission made a recommendation on that council hasn't heard yet. So, but it's a little bit lower on the priority list because they're just it's a smaller rezone, and there just hasn't been as much citizen involvement in this particular one. So.
So, just out of curiosity, it says it's February and March, but you mean February, March of 2018? So you just condensed, I guess, the table?
No, it's in February, March of this year because of tonight's meeting and the hearing on the 21st.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. All right, does anybody want to move that? Are we good where it is? Any comments? Deputy Mayor?
I guess in relation to number 16, I think it should be lower, but maybe that's a comment for the next item.
We good on Riverside Drive? Yep, go ahead. Mr. Cecil? I think all of the should work now.
They're working out.
Yeah, we
there.
rebooted them.
I'll use paths. Dave, could you remind us on this particular item, there was a rezone that we considered, but it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was not property owner initiated. Is that correct?
Well, the initial rezone was property owners initiated as part of the 2015 periodic plan update. And then staff initially recommended expanding that beyond those two properties, that it made sense for that whole zone. But as we got further into it, our deadline on the comp plan update was approaching, we recommended deferring the entire thing until after the comp plan amendment. Planning Commission and Council chose instead to move forward with the two properties and defer consideration of the larger area, and that's where we're at now.
So I guess my point is, by deferring this or pushing it off, we're not necessarily leaving any specific property owners hanging, correct?
Well, we are, because there were property owners in that area that did get involved and supported this code amendment and continue to ask me about the status, but
Supported, but didn't specifically request rezones.
Correct.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
Oh, no, I'm good until we get to number 16.
Oh, okay. So does that change the status of South Riverside Drive from where it's at for 2018? Anybody? We're good where it's at? Okay. Number 16. Main Street.
My middle name's Main Street.
Hold on a second. Let
Perhaps
them
they should be retitled as
prime it.
historic preservation regulations, because that's what's really still on the table, is the historic district regulations and the regulations regarding reports for demolitions.
And Title 22 update,
Right. Those are
right?
yeah,
Okay.
both parts of Title 22.
So, I'm sorry, I meant in regards to the historic district.
Yeah.
So I think this should be much higher in the list. I've already stated that with the Main Street infrastructure improvements, I know that there are property owners who are interested in potentially doing work on their facades. And I also think the historic district has been kind of waiting for 2 years to get going, and they came to a halt because of something that needed to be changed in Title 22. So I think that's a fairly minor change that we could do much sooner than 2018.
So yeah, you want to probably recommend something because it's not slated for anything.
How soon can I get it on the list?
Well,
I'll let you tell me.
I think we can probably put that in 2017 plus, and I think it's the majority of that effort will be by our historic preservation consultant. So, and tell you what, why don't we come report back on that? To
I know
you on
there's
the
some stuff in
21st. Yeah.
flux with,
Yeah.
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 That'd be great, thanks.
Is everybody else okay with that? Make it a 2017 plus. Yep. Okay. Moseying along here. Just real quick before we leave that one. So we are doing the Main Street extension The council's going to approve or deny the contract to build that at our next council meeting. So it's expected to start construction, or I'm sorry, complete construction before the holiday season. So maybe that is a good opportunity for people that are thinking about doing their storefront to redo it while it's all torn up anyways, literally from building to building. So I would encourage if there's something that needed to be done to try to get everybody to kind of have the same look and feel for their frontage, if we can kind of make that happen, that would be great in 2017.
Well, that work is happening. That's really not a docket item, but the storefront studio of UW is happening. And we're working on the loan program. So those are moving forward.
Awesome. Okay. Number 17, the alternative transportation services. Oh wait, no, now we're into 17 and 18. We can just kind of skip right over those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Councilors. Oh, we got questions. Here we go. All right. Councilors, do you guys want to do a little primer on the two of those together? Alternative transportation services and bicycle master plan?
I'd just say that alternative transportation services is a project that King County Metro brought to us to look at different ways of addressing needs that aren't easily met with fixed route traditional bus routes. And then the bicycle master plan is, like I said earlier, it's an effort that Public Works is leading, but that we'll need to coordinate with them on. So.
All right, with that, Councilmember Sandberg.
With the alternative transportation services, that's no budget impact to the city. That's all fully funded by King County or the college campuses or both.
Yeah, the only impact for the city is some staff time at this point.
Okay. And then for number 18, do we have a bicycle master plan?
I don't believe we do. We have, I mean, there are, our comp plan transportation element addresses bike and ped facilities, but we haven't developed a full.
Do we have a sidewalk master plan, or do we just have the sort of the listing of sidewalks?
Well, I think Public Works refers to what the work they did last year was developing a sidewalk program. And I'm not sure we're using the right terminology here, referring to it as bicycle master plan. We'll look into that.
And what is BPAC? BPAC?
Oh, that's the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee of Puget Sound Regional Council that I have been participating in. I'm trying to shift that responsibility to our transportation planner, but so that's again just another work something that is taking up some degree of staff time.
And we have a transportation plan for downtown that has a multimodal aspect to it. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
So would we be considering expanding that sort of downtown multimodal model to the entire city? And
Well, I think it'd probably be more accurate to say that we'll probably do similar type of planning for Canyon Park and continue to rely on the comprehensive plan transportation element to kind of address the citywide aspects of that.
okay, thank you.
So I heard it was Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you. The alternative transportation, so you'd mentioned it'd take a little bit more staff time on that. Can you kind of elaborate where we are? Is the program going, or is it coming? I mean, where are we at right now?
Yeah, the first implementation phase will be coming back to council soon. And I'm kind of not as engaged in it as I was at first. Our transportation planner has taken the lead, and so they're setting up a community van program, and so I guess in addition to staff time, I believe we're going to be creating a space for the van either in the garage or on the street, and having a kiosk and perhaps some minor expenditures on promoting that. But so that they're working out the contract, and that should be coming to council in the next couple of months, I think.
Okay, so we will see that in 2017.
Yeah.
And then the 2017 plus means it's just an ongoing program?
Yeah, in this case, yeah, I think that's accurate.
Okay, and one thing I'd say about that is, we sit on quite a few transportation committees. So if we can be kept up to speed on kind of what's going on, there's a lot of conversation out right now about alternative transportation. So it'd be good for us to kind of know what we're doing, here within the city so that we can make sure that we have those conversations abroad. Cause especially for like Seashore and ETP, those are some of those committees, they talk about the alternative transportation. And then going to 18, Commissioner Hampton spoke about, I think the trail. And I was wondering, is there any conversations around trail grants that could be applied for bicycle type stuff as well?
Yeah, and much of the work that we've done especially on the North Creek Trail in recent years has been through grant funds.
Okay, and so this, again, 2017 plus, to me, it looks like it's a coordination led by Public Works, meaning that it's just gonna be an ongoing thing, or?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know that King County has a land conservation advisory group that's meeting and talking about trail type stuff right now. And unincorporated King County, I know they've met with city staff here in Bothell and talking about what our needs are within our city. So if there's any information that we may have that pertains to bicycles, things like that, that we have trail implications, and we can get that information to them, I think that might be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would it help if we said get Parks Board on that?
I think there'll definitely be some coordination with Parks Department and the board.
Okay. And don't we have a map of bike routes? Or,
Yeah.
roads that we have designated as bike routes?
Yeah, and the
throughout the
comp
city.
plan has a map showing bicycle and pedestrian facilities, so
Okay.
including trails.
Okay, well, thanks for working on those two things. Number 19, the residential care facility definition.
Yeah, that's basically a situation where we're gonna take the definition in state law and put it into our Bothell Municipal Code, so they're the same.
That's going to take a ton of time. Is it going to take a ton of time to do
No,
that?
they
Okay.
will not.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just kind of, it's 2017 plus. Okay, so that's one of those things, like you said,
We're
if
gonna
it
fill
fits
it
in,
in.
we'll just,
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly it.
does anybody have any comment on that?
Except, did we want to move that up a little bit in the order?
Uh,
Yeah, I think we could.
Isn't it mentioned in 8? Or, I'm sorry, yeah, it says assisted living reference.
It is listed in 8 a little bit too, so we may have a duplicate there. But I think we can put it up into 8.
So we can maybe clean that up in the final version, move 19 into 8.
And I think you talked about putting it for 14 as well, moving 14 down to where 19 was.
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be a little switching there.
14's been demoted. Okay. Goes to 8. All right, moving right along. So item number 20, or did anybody else have anything they want to say about the residential care facility definition? Seeing none. Preschools and residential zones, item number 20. Councilmember Sandberg had a okay to remove earlier this evening. Go ahead, give us the primer on that one.
Yeah, essentially, this was an area where we had a preschool went into a single-family residential neighborhood, which was became a large concern on the community. They've been in operation for almost 2.5 years, and it has just been not an issue whatsoever.
Okay. So it sounds like it'd be a good idea to remove potentially. Okay. Does
That's our
anybody?
recommendation.
How do we feel about removing it? Does anybody have any concerns about that? Those guys aren't even listening. All right, so let's go ahead and I think we got direction on that one. I'm not going to say what the direction was. So number 21, adult entertainment regulations. We're almost done. What was this about? I don't remember. Is this about the latte stands and the?
Yeah, yes, yeah,
Shady,
yeah. We
okay.
talked a little bit about that earlier this evening, and it is about the latte stands.
and I think this one particularly grew out of the one up by Country Village.
did.
But that's why it got initiated in the first place. But it hasn't seemed to have been a burning issue of late So I think that's why it's on the 2018.
So just to make sure, it's not really zoned for adult entertainment, right? Because to a lot of people, that's a very specific thing that's not girls in underwear making lattes.
Right, and it is not one of the areas within the city where you could have an adult entertainment facility.
Okay. And is there areas in the city that do allow adult entertainment facilities?
There are two.
Okay. And they're not in the same places?
Are you sure? it's
Yes.
this one? No, yes, it's someplace else, not here.
Okay.
Sorry.
So do you guys want, so you want to keep this on the docket for 2018 in the event that it becomes an issue, or is this something that, oh, Councilmember Sandberg would like to keep this on the docket for 18? Okay.
And this is going to be probably led by the city attorney more than planning staff.
Let's definitely send it to the planning commission, though. Anybody else have a comment on this? So we'll leave it on the docket for 2018. Looks like. So is it supposed to be scheduled to go to the planning commission, or is it supposed to schedule?
No,
to
this
the
was
council?
retained for the city council.
Oh, was it? Oh, I vote. Well, anyways, I'm not gonna vote. Does anybody else have any input? Those guys down there? No. Okay. I say it goes to the planning commission. That's my take, but.
Works for me.
Councilmember Sandberg?
Wait, what works?
Wait.
Yeah. You'll see in 2018. You'll still be on the planning commission, right? Okay, I think that's the end of that one. Number 22, Wayne Golf Course.
And this really is pending on whether the plans for Wayne Golf Course call for anything that would require that code amendment.
Okay, so we'll just leave it at that.
I think it sort of remains on the back burner until that becomes an issue.
Okay, so we'll leave it on there. Is everybody okay leaving it on there? Yep, okay. It's the end of the list, you guys. We did it. Oh, I am so sorry. Councilmember Sandberg added two. One of them is the off-leash dog park activity. I'm sorry, it's just off-leash dog park regulations. Is that something that you think the parks, and you want to put it to the Parks Board in 2018 or sooner?
It's all based on staff time, so it seems like 2017 is very full.
Well, Director Keats isn't here, so we can just,
Well, yeah, it's actually will be something that will be handled by the Parks Department, so.
But we can get his input on whether he has time this year or not.
yeah,
And
that,
just for clarification, I'm not proposing an off-leash dog park because that has a different connotation altogether. It's a specific area with a budget impact. What I'm advocating for is a change in our existing regulations that decriminalizes letting your dog off a leash in a city park. Currently, all dogs have to be on leash, and there was a history behind that. It used to be just under voice command, and then we had an incident, and then we moved to code language that required all dogs to be on leash at all times. And if you are caught by our animal enforcement officer with your dog off your leash, you can get a $250 fine. So the intent is to decriminalize that and yet provide a boundary on those behaviors, because parks are primarily for people and the enjoyment by people. And having a dog off leash shouldn't impinge on that. And I think that's why I recommended also a code of, to look into a code of conduct where people, when they go to a park, they know the bounds of what you can do when you let your dog off the leash, so to speak. I don't want to go into it anymore. I could, but that's it. The distinction is this is a low-cost option. It's not the creation of an off-leash dog area.
so I just have a personal incident to weigh in on this. So I had my dog on a leash going through a park, and somebody that did not have their dog on a leash, their dog came up and caused about $1,200 of flesh tearing damage to my dog. And I was glad that we had rules in place so that person's dog was put on a list, and if that happened again, their dog would be, well, the person got fined No, how did that go? Anyways, so I was thankful that we had regulations because, it's just like anything else. Most of the time, everything's okay. People that have their dog off leash know that their dog can be off leash, but some people don't have the wherewithal to understand like they probably should keep their dog on a leash at the park, and so it protects other people's pets.
And I think that can be part of the discussion. And I'm not proposing that we do away with any of our vicious animal language or dangerous dog language, because there's a bunch of language that's centered around that. Because I do appreciate that is that can also be an issue with dogs off leash.
Yeah, my dog's good, but that dog was not good. Mr. Hampton.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate Councilmember Sandberg's clarification there, because I was envisioning a dog park. And I think if for no other reason, then it would be great to have a discussion about some of the policies around an off-leash park or off-leash at any park, that it might lead to a dog park. I think it's important to have it on there, because I've heard a lot from community members that this is something that's important to them, to have a place where they can take their dog, whether it's a designated dog park with an off-leash area or another park where they could have an off-leash rule. That's important to people in Bothell, and I think that it's a conversation that should be revisited.
Any other input? We've got it in there for 20. Well, we'll figure out the date when we talk to Director Keats. So the last one, sound ordinance. Councilmember Sandberg? Uh-oh, we're losing him
I
again.
spoke about this earlier. I think that our current sound ordinance, it's old, it's deficient. We've had a couple citizens come and explain how it doesn't work, and there are better models out there. And I think this is something that could be done with a minimal amount of work. That said, not for 2017, because we already got too much going on in 2017. And so I'd like to just see it as to make it onto the list for 2018.
I agree with you on that. I thought the gentleman, apparently he's moved out of the city, but he was probably the most patient resident asking for something that I've ever dealt with in the last 5 years. So I'm glad that Councilmember Sandberg put this on here, because I would have asked for it to be on here too. So anybody else? Deputy Mayor?
I agree, and we did get another email from a different citizen. I was under the impression, though, because I repeatedly asked about this, that it had to go to police. Do you know if that's the case? That's what I had been told.
Well, I just know the police are sometimes involved in responding to noise complaints, but I think the actual code change would again be the lead would be legal.
Okay.
I think it was code enforcement. The code enforcement officer, that was the stuff from the gentleman that left and talked very nicely to us for many years about changing this. It was the stuff that the code enforcement person had to go through to prove that there is a sound issue with a certain
Okay.
land use.
Yes. And again, one of the elements is that community development is involved with a few of those things with noise, but other departments, police, for example, is involved with others. So there's kind of a list of different assignment of duties in Title VIII. So we'd have to take a good look at that. But yeah, we can work on something like that.
You can do that before the hearing that we'll have later this year, on March 21st.
I think we can craft something up that we'll basically put onto the docket. I don't know if we'll get it done
Well,
by then.
Right.
And I was going to say that by putting it on the docket as a work item for 2018 basically gives us time to prepare it for the 2018 docket and give you more detailed information about how, what could be done. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want this?
Councilmember McNeil, do you have something to add?
So I didn't have anything on that, but I did want to take a chance to go back to 22. I apologize. I just had a question.
Before we leave it, can we let the
Before we leave.
Director Burdette go in? Okay.
I don't think the city has ever said it won't be done. I think it was taken off the land use list because it was signed to legal. And it's in the area of nuisances, Title VIII, not 12, not 15, nothing else. The only real enforcement engagement that community development gets into is with construction noise. And that's what the code enforcement officer primarily engages with. Now, there are times when music happens, and Mr. Nyhart and I've talked at length about his neighborhood, that other property owners will engage in activities that create noise, and generally the enforcement tool is the police department. So I personally don't view it as that much of a land use element. And our current code, it's up to council. We can certainly update it. It matches the minimum state law, but there are communities that have more elaborate codes, and we can spin off of one of those communities if the community desires to do that. But I've kind of left it up to the legal department to work on it, because we got our hands full.
Councilmember Sandberg?
If noise was considered more of a public health issue, would that then be in the realm of the planning department?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think you link it. It has to be linked to a certain land use type. So when residential neighborhood creates noise, you have a universal code that addresses that, that's not connected with land use or zoning.
Well, I just brought it up because it keeps on not being addressed. So I appreciate Director Burdett's opinion that it is housed elsewhere.
Could we have it as part of our March 21st meeting? Could you go check in with legal and we'll address it then? Great. Back on the truck up to item number 22, Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you. I wanted to find out is there going to be anything, if we close that property, if we need to close it in 2017, would there be any reason that we needed to deal with this line item in 2017?
I think we could, and perhaps instead of, I don't think putting it on 2018 means that we can't deal with it in 2017 if some issue comes up. It should probably be listed as needed, and rather than specifying it to 2018.
Okay, and surrounding that, we talked about having a shoreline board. Is there some work that could be done on that proactively? Is there any work that the shoreline board would need to do in that?
With regard
And looking
to
at the property as a whole?
Wayne Golf Course?
Yeah.
Well, remember, the shoreline board's responsibility ends at 200 feet from the Sammamish River, and that's it. So, I mean, in the broader context of the property, the shoreline board wouldn't be able to look at that, but they can certainly look at the 200-foot area.
And what our requirements would be, et cetera?
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes. In fact, right now, I believe the front nine of Wayne Golf Course is designated Urban Conservancy, which is our highest protection level. And the back nine has a parallel designation. The state was really big into this. The front 100 feet is Urban Conservancy. The back 100 feet is shoreline residential. That's probably the biggest change you'd see for the back nines in this situation from the shoreline aspect.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would be something that we should get started on, at least knowing, regardless of what happens with the golf course, we'll probably need to do something with shoreline there anyway. Is that not correct, or?
Well, I guess from the broader context of the regulations are already pretty severe for the Urban Conservancy land use designation that is applied for that area. And we actually have a special provision that allows recreational type activities to accommodate the golf course in its existing configuration. But if that were to change somehow, there'd be a vastly different approach to that 200 feet area.
Okay. So you feel confident that we don't need to do any, we
I
can be
don't think,
proactive with it?
I don't think we have to do anything in the near term, but perhaps there could be some, and I'm trying to think of what could potentially be within the Shoreline Master Program that might assist here. And probably right now, the way the regulations are set up, they're probably pretty good for the front 9. The back 9, I think we do want to do a change there for the designation to make it all urban conservancy versus the split zone that it is right now.
Okay, and I guess, Mayor, I'd ask you, is there anything that, from a standpoint of WIRA 8, and looking at how that would be designated, that would help us at all, or at this time, no?
Not at this time that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to the end of the additions that we've heard so far. Is there any other additions from the Planning Commission or council members? We're no longer going to delete anything. We're just talking about ads. Is there anything else that you guys thought of that we need to add? Seeing none. Did we get through there was 4 things on your list. I think we accomplished them, right? Okay, good. I don't have the agenda in front of me anymore. Is there anything else on the agenda, Mr. Trotzen? There's nothing else on tonight's agenda? Okay. There it is. Oh, okay. Okay, we're supposed to adjourn at 9. I thought we were going to take that off. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, we don't do votes on. We're adjourned.